The One Rule for Life. Immanuel Kant's moral philosophy explained. Immanuel Kant, one of the most influential philosophers in history, revolutionized moral philosophy with his concept of the categorical imperative. Born in 1724 in Königsberg, Prussia, Kant lived during the Age of Enlightenment, a period that emphasized reason, individualism, and scientific progress. He sought to establish a moral system that was not contingent on external authority, divine command, or subjective inclinations, but was instead rooted in reason and universal principles. Kant's moral philosophy is centered around the idea that human beings, as rational agents, must act according to principles that could be universally applied. His groundbreaking work, Groundwork for the Metaphysics of Morals, laid the foundation for what would later become known as the categorical imperative. Unlike moral systems based on consequences or emotions, Kantian ethics asserts that morality is determined by duty and rational will. According to Kant, the moral worth of an action does not lie in its outcome but in the intention behind it. The significance of Kant's ethical framework cannot be overstated. His ideas continue to shape contemporary discussions on human rights, justice, and personal morality. From business ethics to political theory, Kantian principles remain a guiding force for those seeking a rational and universal approach to ethical decision-making. In a world filled with moral dilemmas, the clarity and consistency of Kant's One Rule for Life provide a compelling guide for ethical conduct. This documentary will explore the core principles of Kantian ethics, particularly the One Rule for Life that defines his moral framework. We will examine the essence of the categorical imperative, its practical applications, and the ways in which it challenges us to live with moral integrity and universal responsibility. Through an in-depth analysis of Kant's philosophy, we aim to uncover how his ethical system continues to inspire and guide moral thought in the modern world. The man behind the philosophy. Immanuel Kant was born on April 22, 1724, in the city of Königsberg, Prussia, now Kaliningrad, Russia. The fourth of 9 children, Kant was raised in a modest yet deeply religious family. His parents were devout pietists, a Protestant movement emphasizing personal devotion, humility, and moral integrity. This upbringing instilled in him a strong sense of discipline and duty, values that later became central to his philosophy. Despite financial hardships, Kant was an exceptional student. He attended the University of Königsberg, where he studied philosophy, mathematics, and physics. Initially, Kant was heavily influenced by the rationalist philosophy of Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz and Christian Wolff, but he also engaged with the empiricist ideas of John Locke and David Hume. Hume's skepticism, in particular, had a profound impact on Kant, awakening him from what he described as his dogmatic slumber and inspiring him to develop his own critical philosophy. Kant's academic career was marked by his rigorous dedication to intellectual inquiry. For decades, he worked as a private tutor and lecturer before securing a professorship at the University of Königsberg. He taught courses on a wide range of subjects, including logic, metaphysics, ethics, and anthropology. His lectures were known for their clarity, systematic approach, and unwavering commitment to reason. In 1781, Kant published his magnum opus, Critique of Pure Reason, a work that sought to reconcile rationalism and empiricism by establishing the limits of human knowledge. While this book focused primarily on epistemology, it laid the groundwork for his later ethical writings. Kant believed that just as reason structures our understanding of the world, it also provides the foundation for moral law. Kant's moral philosophy reached its fullest expression in Groundwork for the Metaphysics of Morals, 1785, Critique of Practical Reason, 1788, and Metaphysics of Morals, 1797. In these works, he introduced the concept of the categorical imperative, a universal principle that defines moral duty. Unlike moral theories based on consequences or emotions, Kant's ethics demanded that actions be judged by their adherence to rational principles that could be universally applied. Kant led a remarkably disciplined and structured life. He rarely left Königsberg, never married, and followed a strict daily routine that included long walks at precisely the same time every afternoon. Despite his solitary lifestyle, he was deeply engaged with the intellectual and political movements of his time, supporting the ideals of the Enlightenment and advocating for individual autonomy, reason, and moral duty. In 1804, at the age of 79, Kant passed away, leaving behind a legacy that would influence generations of philosophers, ethicists, and political thinkers. His ideas continue to be studied and debated today, serving as a cornerstone of modern moral philosophy. Kant's commitment to reason, autonomy, and universal moral law remains a powerful guide for navigating ethical dilemmas in contemporary society. The Categorical Imperative. The one rule for life. At the heart of Kant's ethics lies the categorical imperative: act only according to that maxim whereby you can at the same time that it should become a universal law. This principle suggests that moral actions must be applicable universally. Unlike hypothetical imperatives, which depend on personal desires, the categorical imperative applies unconditionally. This rule challenges individuals to evaluate whether their actions could be morally justified if everyone followed the same principle. Kant outlined 3 key formulations of the categorical imperative that provide a framework for moral reasoning. The formula of universal law. This formulation requires that we act only on principles that could be consistently universalized. For example, lying cannot be moral because, if everyone lied, trust and communication would break down, making the act of lying self-defeating. The formula of humanity as an end in itself. This formulation emphasizes that we must treat all individuals, including ourselves, as ends rather than mere means to an end. This ensures that human dignity and intrinsic worth are respected in all moral considerations. The formula of the kingdom of ends. This version envisions a society in which all individuals act according to universally valid moral laws, creating a just and fair community where every person is treated with equal moral consideration. Kant argued that moral law is derived from reason, not personal inclination or external commands. The categorical imperative thus establishes a clear, rational foundation for ethical decision-making, guiding individuals to act in ways that uphold consistency, dignity, and moral duty. By adhering to the categorical imperative, individuals can cultivate moral character and contribute to a world governed by ethical principles rather than subjective impulses or self-interest. This chapter will explore practical applications of these formulations, illustrating their relevance in contemporary ethical debates, from business practices and political decisions to personal moral dilemmas. Universal law and moral duty. Kant believed that morality is not subjective but rooted in duty. By adhering to the principle of universality, individuals can ensure that their actions are ethically sound. The core idea behind this concept is that a morally right action must be one that could be willed as a universal law, applicable to all rational beings at all times. For instance, consider the act of lying. If lying were a universal law, trust would become impossible and communication would break down. Therefore, under Kant's framework, lying is inherently immoral because it fails the test of universality. Similarly, theft and breaking promises would be unethical, as society could not function if everyone adopted these behaviors universally. Kant argued that moral duty should be carried out for its own sake, not because of personal gain or fear of consequences. This aligns with his notion of a good will, which he saw as the only truly good thing in itself. A person who acts morally only because of expected benefits does not possess true moral worth. Instead, one must act from duty, guided by rational principles. Real-life applications of Kant's universal law can be seen in professional ethics, legal systems, and personal integrity. For example, whistleblowers who expose corruption do so because they believe honesty should be a universal standard, even if it comes at personal risk. Similarly, businesses that prioritize fair wages and ethical labor practices align with Kantian ethics, recognizing that exploitation cannot be a universal principle. In this chapter, we will analyze moral dilemmas through the lens of Kant's universal law formulation, demonstrating its relevance in contemporary ethical challenges. By doing so, we will see how this principle remains a crucial guide in distinguishing right from wrong in a rational and just manner. Conclusion. The one rule for life found in Kant's moral philosophy teaches us that ethical living requires universality, respect, and rational decision-making. His work challenges us to act with integrity, considering the impact of our actions on the broader world. By applying Kantian ethics, we can navigate moral dilemmas with clarity and contribute to a more just society. Treating humanity as an end. One of the most profound aspects of Kant's moral philosophy is the principle that human beings must always be treated as ends in themselves, never as mere means to an end. This concept is rooted in the second formulation of the categorical imperative: act in such a way that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in the person of another, always at the same time as an end, never merely as a means. This formulation emphasizes the inherent dignity and worth of every human being. Unlike ethical systems that may justify the use of people as instruments for achieving certain goals, Kantian ethics demands that individuals are respected for their intrinsic value. This principle is foundational to modern human rights, influencing debates on justice, ethics, and moral responsibility. The moral implications of treating humanity as an end. Respect for individual autonomy. Kant believed that rational beings have moral autonomy, meaning they can make ethical choices based on reason. Respecting others as ends means acknowledging their right to make their own decisions without coercion or manipulation. Ethical relationships. In personal and professional relationships, Kant's principle calls for honesty, fairness, and respect. Exploitation, deceit, and manipulation are inherently immoral as they reduce individuals to mere tools for personal gain. Justice and human rights. The idea of treating humanity as an end laid the groundwork for modern human rights discourse. Laws that protect individuals from discrimination, exploitation, and oppression align with Kant's moral philosophy. Practical applications. Business ethics. Companies that prioritize fair wages, safe working conditions, and ethical treatment of employees embody Kant's principle. Medical ethics. The doctrine of informed consent in healthcare ensures that patients are treated with respect, honoring their autonomy. Social justice. Movements advocating for equality and dignity, such as those against human trafficking or racial injustice, align with Kantian ethics. Kant's principle of treating humanity as an end is a powerful moral guide for ensuring justice and ethical integrity in all aspects of life. By upholding this rule, we contribute to a society that values human dignity and mutual respect. Autonomy and moral responsibility. Kant's ethical philosophy is grounded in the idea that moral agents must act autonomously, governed by reason rather than external influences or personal inclinations. The concept of autonomy is crucial to understanding the categorical imperative, as it asserts that individuals are self-governing beings capable of determining right from wrong through rational thought. The nature of moral autonomy. Kant argued that true morality stems from autonomy, the ability to act according to principles of reason rather than being driven by external pressures or desires. This means that a person must make ethical decisions based on duty, not on fear of punishment or hope of reward. An autonomous person follows moral law not because they are compelled to, but because they recognize it as the right course of action. Moral responsibility and duty. With autonomy comes moral responsibility. Kantian ethics asserts that individuals are accountable for their actions, as they have the capacity to determine what is morally right. This contrasts with ethical theories that rely on consequences or emotions. According to Kant, a person must act out of duty and adhere to universal moral laws. For example, telling the truth should be practiced not because it benefits us personally, but because honesty is a principle that should be universally upheld. Autonomy in contemporary ethics. The principle of autonomy continues to shape modern ethical discourse in various fields. Medical ethics. The concept of informed consent is based on the idea that patients should have the freedom to make decisions about their own health care. Legal systems. Many legal structures incorporate the notion of individual responsibility, ensuring that people are held accountable for their actions. Political philosophy. Democratic systems are founded on the belief that individuals should have the freedom to make choices and govern themselves according to rational principles. Challenges to autonomy. Despite its significance, Kant's concept of autonomy has been challenged by various philosophical perspectives. Critics argue that human behavior is influenced by emotions, social contexts, and unconscious biases, making pure autonomy difficult to achieve. Others question whether duty alone is sufficient for moral decision-making, suggesting that considerations of compassion and consequences should also play a role. Nevertheless, Kant's emphasis on autonomy and moral responsibility remains a cornerstone of ethical thought, providing a framework for understanding how individuals should act in a rational and principled manner. By embracing autonomy, we uphold the ideals of self-governance, ethical consistency, and moral duty. Practical applications of Kantian ethics. Kantian ethics extends beyond abstract philosophical discussions. It has real-world implications in various domains of life. By applying Kant's principles to contemporary issues, we can see how his moral framework influences ethical decision-making across different sectors. Business ethics. Kantian ethics provides a strong foundation for integrity and fairness in the business world. Companies that operate with transparency, honesty, and respect for employees and consumers reflect Kant's principle of treating humanity as an end rather than a means. Ethical business practices include fair wages and labor conditions. Companies should ensure employees receive fair compensation and work in humane conditions. Honest advertising. Deceptive marketing violates the principle of universalizability, as trust would collapse if everyone engaged in false advertising. Corporate social responsibility. Businesses should consider the broader societal impact of their actions, ensuring their operations do not exploit workers or harm the environment. Medical ethics. Kant's emphasis on autonomy and respect for individuals has significantly influenced medical ethics. Healthcare professionals must prioritize patient dignity, ensuring that medical decisions respect their autonomy and informed consent. Key applications include informed consent. Patients must be given full information about medical procedures to make rational, autonomous decisions. Truthfulness and honesty. Doctors must not deceive patients, as lying would violate the principle of universal law. Respect for human life. Kantian ethics supports the idea that human life is inherently valuable, influencing debates on euthanasia, abortion, and genetic modification. Political and legal systems. Many democratic principles align with Kant's ethical philosophy, particularly the belief that individuals should be treated with dignity and have the freedom to act rationally. Kant's ideas influence human rights laws, ensuring that laws protect individuals from exploitation and injustice. Justice and fairness. The legal system must treat all individuals as ends, ensuring due process and equal rights. Government accountability. Leaders should make decisions based on ethical principles rather than personal or political gain. Social justice and civil rights. Kantian ethics provides a framework for advocating equality and justice in society. Social justice movements that fight against discrimination, poverty, and oppression reflect Kant's moral philosophy. Ethical responsibilities include ending exploitation. Systems that dehumanize individuals violate Kant's principle of human dignity. Fostering equality. Laws and policies should ensure equal rights and opportunities for all. Challenging oppression. People have a moral duty to stand against injustice wherever it occurs. Personal development. On a personal level, Kantian ethics encourages self-improvement and adherence to moral principles. Individuals striving to be better should act with integrity, make decisions based on duty rather than self-interest. Respect others, treat people with dignity, ensuring interactions are fair and just. Develop moral character, continually strive to align actions with ethical principles, ensuring a life guided by reason and duty. By applying Kant's ethics in everyday life, individuals, businesses, and governments can build a world based on fairness, dignity, and rational moral principles. His philosophy remains a powerful guide for ethical decision-making in an increasingly complex world. Criticisms and modern interpretations. Kant's moral philosophy, while widely respected, has faced several criticisms over the years. Philosophers and scholars have debated the practicality, rigidity, and implications of his categorical imperative. In this chapter, we will explore these critiques and examine how modern thinkers have interpreted and adapted Kantian ethics. Common criticisms of Kantian ethics. Rigidity and absolutism. One of the most frequent critiques of Kantian ethics is its rigidity. The categorical imperative demands strict adherence to moral laws, leaving little room for flexibility. Critics argue that this rigidity fails to accommodate complex moral dilemmas where absolute rules may lead to morally troubling outcomes. For example, Kant insisted that lying is always immoral, even in situations where telling the truth could cause harm. Neglect of consequences. Kantian ethics prioritizes duty and intention over consequences. However, some argue that this neglect of outcomes is impractical. In real-world scenarios, the consequences of an action often determine its moral worth. Ethical theories such as utilitarianism challenge Kant's approach by suggesting that the best moral action is one that maximizes overall happiness and well-being. Conflicting duties. Another major challenge is the issue of conflicting duties. If two moral duties come into direct conflict, Kantian ethics provides little guidance on how to resolve the dilemma. For instance, if telling the truth would result in serious harm to an innocent person, the strict Kantian approach offers no clear resolution. Human emotion and compassion. Critics argue that Kantian ethics is overly rational and fails to account for human emotions and compassion. Moral decisions often involve empathy, love, and care, which are not adequately addressed in Kant's duty-based system. Modern interpretations and adaptations. Despite these criticisms, Kantian ethics continues to influence contemporary thought. Many modern philosophers have sought to refine and adapt his principles to better address real-world complexities. Neo-Kantian ethics. Contemporary ethicists, such as Christine Korsgaard, have developed neo-Kantian frameworks that incorporate considerations of personal relationships and context while maintaining Kant's emphasis on duty and rationality. Kantian ethics in human rights. Kant's principle of treating humanity as an end has been instrumental in shaping modern human rights discourse. Governments and international organizations often cite Kantian principles when advocating for equality, dignity, and justice. Hybrid ethical theories. Some philosophers propose blending Kantian ethics with consequentialist approaches to create a more balanced moral framework. These hybrid theories aim to retain Kant's emphasis on duty while incorporating considerations of outcomes and well-being. The relevance of Kantian ethics today. While criticisms of Kant's philosophy exist, his ethical framework remains a cornerstone of moral philosophy. His ideas continue to shape debates in law, medicine, business, and politics. By engaging with Kantian ethics, we gain valuable insights into the importance of moral integrity, universal principles, and human dignity. Conclusion. Kant's moral philosophy provides a rigorous framework for ethical living, demanding that individuals act according to principles that could be universally applied. The categorical imperative challenges us to uphold duty, treat others as ends in themselves, and embrace moral autonomy. While critics argue that Kantian ethics can be rigid and impractical in certain real-world scenarios, its core principles remain foundational in contemporary discussions on morality, justice, and human dignity. The impact of Kant's ideas extends beyond academic philosophy, influencing legal systems, human rights movements, and ethical debates in business and medicine. By understanding and applying Kant's one rule for life, we gain a moral compass that promotes integrity, rational decision-making, and universal ethical standards. As we navigate the complexities of modern society, Kant's teachings continue to inspire a commitment to duty, respect, and moral responsibility. Sources and references. Kant, Immanuel. Groundwork for the Metaphysics of Morals. Sandel, Michael. Justice, What's the Right Thing to Do? Korsgaard, Christine. Creating the Kingdom of Ends. Various academic articles on Kantian ethics and moral philosophy.